Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we are giving you our top 20 most played games again, but this time we're looking at the number of hours played. This list is actually going to be quite a bit different than the previous one. You'll see some games return, but the order is certainly going to be different, and there's going to be games on here that did not make it to the other one. So I track all my games since around 2014. I track all my games in the Board Game Stats app. It's a fantastic tool if you like keeping track of your plays. It depending on how much of the tool you use, it will really give you lots of phenomenal stats to dig into. It lets you set up different challenges and all kinds of stuff. Point is, that's how I know the number of hours. On here, I'm just going to list the hours. I'm not going to dig into the minutes played, but if you do see a difference, like a couple of, for instance, number 18 and 17 both have the same number of hours played. The reason why they're separated is that technically I've played a few more minutes of number 17 than 18. So we're going to start our 20-minute timer and get going right now. So number 20 is Scythe, or Scythe. This is from Stonemaier Games. This is a sort of a alternate history where in between World War I and II, giant mechs are actually used for fighting in battle. And you would think that maybe the game's going to be a lot of fighting, but really there's not a ton of fighting in the game. Most of the game is this resource management, sort of upgrading your technologies or your abilities, and area control game. And then fighting does happen as well, and when it happens, it's this sort of it is an abstracted, almost bidding mechanism that is how you end up resolving the fights. Beautiful game. I actually ended up getting rid of my copy after playing through the Rise of Fenris campaign, which is an expansion. I've kind of been getting an urge to play it again, though. A buddy of mine has it, so I'll probably get to the table again soon. That's Scythe with 24 hours. Star Realms, number 19, with 25 hours. Star Realms is only a 20-minute game, so I've got 25 hours of this game. I've played a ton of it. It was number 2 on my individual plays list, and this is a card drafting game, deck building game, where not card drafting, deck building, and you have a row of cards in the center of the table. In the base game, there's 4 different factions that you're choosing from. The green faction is attack heavy. The red faction lets you purge cards from your deck. The blue faction is the healing faction. The yellow faction causes opponents to discard cards from their hand, and everybody starts with 50 authority, and you're trying to whittle their authority down to 0. Once you do that, you win. It's a 2-player back and forth card or deck building game. That's Star Realms. Number 18 is Xia Legends of a Drift System with 26. Oh man, this is one, if I had it now, I got rid of it because my game group didn't want to play it, my wife didn't want to play it. My game group now would love this game. I need to get my hands on it again. It's a space adventure game where rather than having some giant ship that has 100 people on it or 1,000 people on it, you have a small sort of Millennium Falcon sized ship where it's just a small crew, and the crew is abstracted. It may even just be you on the ship, and you're running around and you're doing different things to gain, I think they just call them victory points in the game, it might be fame points actually. And you could be a pirate, you could be a bounty hunter, you could be a merchant. It's a sandbox, and you're going out exploring the universe, running into all kinds of different dangers and problems. So much fun, so colorful. That is Xia. Number 17 is Mechs versus Minions with also 26 hours. This one made the other list. This is where it takes place in the League of Legends universe. You are a Yordle in a mech, and you're fighting off the wave after wave of minions that are coming at you. There's, I believe, 10 different scenarios that you unlock as you play through, and it's a campaign, technically speaking, and I really enjoyed it up until maybe, I think, like Scenario 8, 9, and 10 maybe were the ones that I started feeling like I just didn't quite enjoy them as much. I felt like towards the end of the campaign, they cranked up the difficulty with randomness rather than further digging into your skills and your ability to play strategically. It's a programming game, so you lay down the cards you want to play, and then your Yordle runs through the program. It's a lot of fun. That's Mechs versus Minions. Number 16 is Mice and Mystics with 27 hours. This is, when you first look at it, you would think it's just a kid's game, but it's pretty rules intensive, and it's probably a medium weight game as far as that goes, but it is a dungeon crawler where you and your party have been turned into mice, and you're fighting off rats that are previously guards that work for the evil sorceress queen, and y'all are fighting your way through the dungeon trying to save the main character's dad, who's the king, and he's been placed under a spell, whatever. But you go through a bunch of different scenarios, lots of different item cards and spells, and you have your knight, you have your sorcerer, all that kind of stuff, all in mouse form. And you're fighting off, like I said, the rats, but you've got giant spiders, or they're not giant, they're normal sized spiders, but they're giant now to you, spiders and centipedes and all this kind of stuff. Real fun story, real fun dice chucker. That's Mice and Mystics. Number 15 is Seventh Continent with 30 hours. Seventh Continent is scenario-based exploration game. It's kind of interesting because the very first scenario can take, 15 hours sometimes, depending on what you're doing and how much you get lost. 15 hours is probably exaggerated. It could take, I believe, somewhere around 7 or 8 hours. But then the further scenarios, from what I understand, are much shorter than that. And that first scenario is just to kind of get you familiar with the island and tries to take you all over the island. It would seem like it's a modular-based game, but it's not, because the island, as you place it out, the island is always the exact same shape, no matter where you start on it. And when you explore, there's numbers on the side of the card, so you know what tile to put next to it. And then your deck of action cards is also your life. So as you burn through your deck, the faster you burn through it, the sooner you're going to die. It's really interesting. Seventh Continent. Number 14 is Aeon Trespass Odyssey with 34 hours. This one is right here above my head here. I got deep into the first cycle of this game. The cycles are like the scenario arcs, the campaign arcs. There's 3 cycles in the base game, and this is imagine Kingdom Death Monsters Showdown portion, but rather than the settlement portion you have of Kingdom Death Monster, you have this exploration where you're going around this map and interacting with locals, and also the ship that you're on is so massive that you do these things, this part of the story called the Inward Odyssey, or I think it's Inward Odyssey, where you're exploring the ship and trying to figure out what's going on with this massive ship that sort of seems to run itself, but sort of not. And you are in control of these titans who are fighting these primordials that are even bigger than them and trying to stop them from destroying the world. That's Aeon Trespass Odyssey, number 14. Number 13 is Root with 35 hours. Root is I would say probably my favorite asymmetric head-to-head game out there. The base game comes with 4 factions. Each faction is drastically different from the other. The cat faction likes to build and starts covering the entire map. The bird faction starts in one corner of the map and is a programming faction. We have to program what they're going to do. The Woodland Alliance is a insurgency faction where they just kind of pop up around the board and blow stuff up. And then the what's he called? Oh man, I can't remember exactly what he's called. He's this little raccoon guy that runs around. He's like an adventurer, and he's wreaking havoc on everybody and making alliances and killing other guys. And everybody has different ways to score points, and the first one to 30 wins the game. That's Root. Pandemic is my number 12 with 35 hours as well. Pandemic, 4 diseases are rampaging across the globe. You and your team, it's a cooperative game, have to research these diseases to find the cures. find all 4 cures, you win the game. If you can eradicate a disease along the way, that's kind of bonus, because then that disease isn't causing problems for you anymore while you can try to continue the game. It's one of these games where, you know, if you get 3 disease cubes in one city and a 4th one gets added, it actually explodes into a outbreak and infects every neighboring city. It really can get out of hand fast. This is one of those games where you're playing it, and if you say the words, "Oh, I feel like we're doing pretty good," inevitably in the next turn, the entire map's getting covered by one of the 4 diseases. That's just the way it goes. That's Pandemic, my number 12. Number 11, Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition with 36 hours. This is one, I should really bring this back off the shelf. It's been a little while. You're exploring this Lovecraftian mystery, normally in a mansion. Sometimes it's not in a mansion. You're going around trying to figure out what's going on. You have your character who will have different powers depending on what they are. Some of them are just regular humans. Some of them have access to magic. If you have access to magic, it's probably going to cause some serious problems for you, either physically or mentally, because humans aren't meant to be handling those sorts of things. And of course, inevitably, you're going to have Lovecraftian monsters pop up and start causing problems. You can fight them. It is not a game where fighting should be your first choice, because they are very powerful and you are very not. And you're going to kill them, but you're probably going to take some damage in the process. And it's just a great sort of experience. That's Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. Number 10 is Sleeping Gods with 39 hours. Sleeping Gods is the map is a book, and you're moving your ship along, and there's all these numbers on the map, and you go to a number, and then you open up the exploration book or whatever it's called, and you go to that number and you read a story, and you have choices to make. You're going to end up fighting monsters. You're going to end up taking damage from different choices that you make, and you level up your characters, get skills, and you're going to go through this event deck 3 times. At the end of the 3rd time, then an event will happen to determine whether or not you've won the game. You're collecting these totems throughout the game, and if you collect enough, that kind of depends on whether or not you've won. It's a really interesting game with lots of great story to find and interact with. That's Sleeping Gods. Number 9, Pandemic Legacy with 41 hours. Now imagine everything I said about Pandemic, all of that still applies, except now you have a campaign, you have a story, and the things that happen in the game are permanent changes. So for instance, when I mentioned an outbreak in a city, right? So the 4th cube would go in a city, instead it goes in all the other cities. Now you put a number next to that city to indicate that the population is unhappy. They're starting to become an unstable city, and if that keeps happening, if you get another outbreak there, the city might riot, and then it might become a wasteland, basically, where it's difficult to even get into the city, whereas normally it just takes 1 action to move around the board. Maybe it takes 2 actions to get into that city now. So lots of craziness going on in this. There's even this plot twist. They really added a story to a game that I didn't think could have a story. That's Pandemic Legacy. Number 8, Thunderstone Advance with 52 hours. This is it's probably the 4th designer game I ever got my hands on. I don't actually own it anymore. It just sat on the shelf, so I finally got rid of it. But it was such a phenomenal experience for so long, where you have this village that has all these cards on it that you are building your deck with. So you go to the village, you can pick any card from the village as long as you can pay for it, and add it to your deck. Then when you're ready, you go to the dungeon, fight some monsters. As the monsters get killed, they slide down the track and more monsters come out, and they're going to get more and more powerful, and eventually the boss monster is going to come out, and you're going to want to fight that. Now, you can play this 2 different ways. It can be cooperative, where you don't care about the points on the cards, you're just trying to kill that main boss monster and do whatever you can together to get him. Or you can play the way the game's actually intended to be played, which is everybody's kind of a mercenary almost out for themselves, trying to get the most glory, and whoever has the most points based off the monsters they've killed at the end of the game is the one who wins. That's Thunderstone Advance. Dead of Winter is number 7 with 53 hours. This is it's almost, you wish they had gotten to Walking Dead theme the license for this game, because it would be perfect. Or not even, instead of, get that also, release Dead of Winter with The Walking Dead. Excuse me. Because this is very much a zombie survival game where the people are the main problem. The players you're playing with, if you've got 5 people playing, you're going to have a deck of 10 secret objective cards. One of those cards will be, and then you'll also add in a betrayal objective card. And you're going to deal those cards out. And so maybe there's a traitor, but maybe there's not. There's no way to know until they betray you at the end. And you have all these different locations to go to, and you're collecting gasoline and food and all this stuff. And then also watch out for those zombies. Number 6 is Star Wars Imperial Assault with 61 hours. This is the way I play it. I play the cooperative version. You have an app that controls the bad guys, and you're going through different Star Wars stories. And it's none of the stuff from the movies, none of the stuff from, as far as I know, from the comics or books. It's all original stories with original characters. Occasionally, the characters you know from the movies and books will show up and assist for like a mission, but your characters are very much from this game, and you're going in, you're raiding Imperial bases, you're trying to escape Darth Vader, all kinds of stuff like that happens in this game. And it's also got a one versus many, where one person is the Imperials, everybody else are the rebels. It felt to me when I played it that way that there was a runaway leader problem, and that's why I only play cooperative now. Number 5 is Tainted Grail with 61 hours, and that is essentially only playing the base campaign. I started the base campaign like 3 different times and finally played it all the way through. I have the expansions. I need to play the expansions. So Tainted Grail is a dark take on the Arthurian legend, and the thing that really sets it apart, besides the exploration, which is really cool, is the way the combat works. Now, the combat gets the combat and the diplomacy get a lot of hate from people. For me, it's a phenomenally innovative and really interesting take on how to do combat. Essentially, you have the bad guy, and you put the bad guy card down, and he's got different stats, and then you're laying your cards down as well, and trying to match your cards with other cards that you're laying down, and then the other players are also doing that, and there are these little keys on them that you're trying to link up, because that'll power up the cards, make different things happen, and let you trigger your skills. I don't know. I love it. It's a very thinky way to do combat. That's Tainted Grail. Oh, and the story is fantastic. Number 4 is Mage Knight with 63 hours. Mage Knight is the first game that I really fell in love with, I'd say. That really was like, oh, wow, this is a cool game. Mage Knight, you're a massively powered Mage Knight running around the countryside. You've been sent there in order to lay waste to one of the cities there. But along the way, you can recruit different guys. You're rolling dice to figure out what sort of magic you can use. There's a day-night cycle as well. So a game usually takes 3 days, 3 nights. Different stuff works at night that doesn't work in the day, and vice versa. You have all these different locations you can discover as you're going along the path to get to one of those cities. And the combat is another one where the combat is very, very thinky, and you really have to dig into what you're going to do and strategize how you're going to do it, because it can get away from you if you don't. That's Mage Knight, my number 4. Number 3 is Gloomhaven with 102 hours. I have played this almost exclusively solo. In fact, it might be only solo for Gloomhaven. I know Jaws of the Lion I've played with people. But this is a just phenomenal campaign. Yet again, another system where the combat is very thought-provoking, where it looks like a dungeon crawler. It's really a card management game. And you're working your way through these dungeons, fighting monsters, but you have to be very careful with how you're using your cards, because your cards, once they're gone, that's your stamina, and you're unconscious once you lose all your cards. And so some of the cards have really powerful abilities, but then the card's done for the entire scenario. Otherwise, you can play the less powerful abilities and get the cards back after you do a long or short rest. You are retiring characters, you're unlocking new characters. That's Gloomhaven, my number 3. Number 2, Midara. Unintentional Malum Act 1 with 141 hours. My game group and I finally put this campaign away. We finished it, we beat it. We spent about a year and a half playing this game, and it was a really, really great experience. The other 2 guys in my game group loved it the whole way through. I enjoyed it for the first 75-80%, and then it started wearing on me. It started getting, I was ready for it to be over. But it's one of the key features of this game is that there's no real set archetypes in the game. They have kind of some suggestions for how you might want to set up certain characters, but each character only has like a single special ability that's definitely theirs, and their stats are a little bit different, but not super different, so you can really build your own archetype however you want to with these characters in Midara. It's a pretty great experience, and like I said, 2 out of 3 of us loved it all the way through. Number 1, Kingdom Death Monster with 221 hours, and I still can't wait to get this game back to the table. It's just a phenomenal experience. The Gambler's Chest expansion, I have barely scratched the surface of really digging into that campaign. I have been putting out my instructional videos for it, but I'm really hoping after Frosthaven, maybe, because that's what my game group is playing right now, maybe we'll get into Kingdom Death Monster. Again, I've already played 1 campaign with them, but that was when there was 3 of us. Now there's 4 of us, and I've never played Kingdom Death Monster with 4 people, so I'd love to do that. It's this dark, desolate setting where there's no light. You have these lanterns that you use as your light source, and you're fighting off these horrific monsters that are trying to eat you, but then if you kill them, you're gonna butcher them, you're gonna, take their bones, their hide, their organs, and make food and make weapons and armor. And then every now and then a nemesis is going to show up in your settlement and just lay waste, like make you realize that you are not ready for the end boss yet. And it is one of the most immersive experiences. It has this emergent storytelling that occurs, and I just can't say enough good things about how this game works. It has a showdown phase where you're fighting the monsters. It has a settlement phase where you're building up your settlement, because that's how you're going to survive, is by having a settlement that can thrive, even though your settlers, your survivors, are getting destroyed and getting murdered pretty consistently throughout the game. That's Kingdom Death Monster, my number 1. So there you go. Real quick rundown of my stats. I have, and this is all, by the way, as of December 31st. I have of 2024, 2,723 plays of 380 games. Total time playing games around 2,519 hours. And I have an H-index of 24 right now. H-index, if you don't know, means I've played 24 games at least 24 times. So it's a really cool sort of challenge and the higher you get on that H-index, the harder it is to get to the next level. It's a kind of a neat little level up system there. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to come back when I will have how to play Gambler's Chest expansion, how to play Dungeon Universalis. All that's coming. Lots of other great stuff. And until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline.